I think the Enneagram is always helpful.
The Enneagram was meant to be a way of getting out of our box.
If the Enneagram gave you 15% more clarity, that is an evolutionary leap forward.
Welcome to Typish, an Enneagram podcast where we explore how your personality shows up in all of life. I'm your host, Tyler Zock, and in each episode, I connect you with leading experts on how your personality impacts your relationships, mental health, spirituality, and everything in between. We are in the middle of a 6-week series called Healthy Relationships. If you want the bullet point notes for all 6 episodes right now, so that you can start to see improvements in your relationships right away, you can click on the link below in the show notes and download that PDF as a free gift. Over these 6 weeks, you'll get to hear from Suzanne Stabile, Sarajane Case, Danny Cooper, Ashton Whitmore Ober, Steph Barron Hall, and today I sit down with Christa Hardin. Christa has been counseling and coaching couples for over 2 decades, and she holds a master's in clinical psychology with a specialty in marriage and family. She hosts the popular show, The Enneagram and Marriage Podcast, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Enneagram and Marriage, Your Guide to Thriving Together in Your Unique Pairing. Well, today's episode features part of my conversation with Christa that originally aired during my very first summit back in 2023. So join me and Christa now as we go around the Enneagram and talk about 3 ways each type can improve their marriage.
I love to start with 1 because I love being practical. It keeps me organized, but I also want to thank you for this question, Tyler, because usually we ask, how can each type just, how can we love an 8 or a 9? And I love how you're like, here are some action steps. So we're not just loving the types, but we're really allowing each type to come out of themselves and love their partners. So thank you.
Awesome. I can't wait. To learn from you.
Oh, well, I try to present some unique points. So our type 1s, I think that what's really helpful with the work I do with 1s is to remind them to see their spouse as God sees their spouse or as others in their community see their spouse, because 1s have such a particular gift. And I know this being married to a 1 for seeing details. And my husband often says, I can't even help it. It's like, I wish I didn't have this gift. Of course he does, because he's medical and now he can diagnose. Like yesterday, he's like, I diagnosed cancer and I diagnosed heart disease. And it was like big things because of the oneness. But yet I think that sometimes because of that detail, they need to come back out big picture. How does God see my partner or spouse, or how do others? And that really frees them. So that's one tip I have. Because 1s are compliant and they enjoy hearing, what do others think about my partner? It actually really improves things in their marriage if the spouse can be humble about that too. Also, I think it's very helpful for type 1s because they love doing what is right, to remember that it is right to love. And I love how C.S. Lewis says in The 4 Loves, that's one of my husband and my favorite books. And he says, we don't just love somebody because they're attractive or because they're strong, male, female, whatever they are, but we love them because they're ours. And it's right. And it's good to love them that way. And then lastly, this is a huge one for type 1s. And I hate to say it, but I also think it's so important to say. So take a nice deep breath when I say that it's important for you to remember that you have flaws too, that your spouse doesn't tell you because they know you're really hard on yourself and they know you have a strong inner critic. So sometimes you might feel, I must not have many flaws. And of course, you're not perfect. And sometimes you have that inner critic, but in the marriage context, you might forget that you have issues too, but they don't always tell you because of that. So just remember that humbly. And I think you're on the right track.
Right. There are some things that, we can, none of us have perfect 100% self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to need to receive feedback from our spouse. And if our spouse is loving us well and giving us lots of encouragement and putting chips in, then it shouldn't be that hard to receive that. So I love that.
Yeah. And we're not even encouraging that spouse to give them critiques. We're just encouraging them to hold it in faith that they could be, but they're choosing not to.
Yes.
So
Perfect. What about type 2s?
Okay, type twos, it's so important that you let your spouse love you the way that they love you. And by that, of course, I mean they do love you, but you have to see the ways it's being done so that you can receive it. Because a lot of twos are looking for certain ways of being loved and may have a more intense relationship with their own love language than some of the other types. And so that's great because you know what you love, but often your spouse is doing the best they can with what they already have to offer. And so it's so beautiful when you can just experience this release of, oh, wow, everybody doesn't feel the same way as me and they have other gifts. Not only is it helpful for the vice of pride, but it's helpful just to receive the love. You really get something. And I've had people weep over that, that are twos, to just finally have the blinders off and be able to see they're already being loved so well.
You're saying that other people have different love languages and maybe show their love in different ways. And for the two to open themselves up to receive all those other unique ways that people love. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's well said. Yes. And even if they're not expecting the same one they give, which I know most of the time twos are, sometimes they're just saying, I know your love language is this, so I give it to you. And I know mine is maybe it's quality time, but they don't realize that their love language may be rubbing against their spouse in a unique way. And so just receiving the love that their spouse has to give, whatever the love languages are.
Gotcha. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then also another tip for twos is to develop their minds. And that usually comes through verbal processing. That's very helpful for twos. They have such big hearts, but just spending time on that development of mind can take them so far. And the Enneagram is a great space to do that as they really take a deep breath with confidence and put on step-by-step layers of the Enneagram. Because often twos may say, what's going on here? There's so much to it. And just take your time. I know Suzanne Stabile has said a whole lifetime with just your one type is enough. So don't rush it. Also, I want to just really encourage twos in marriage to have good boundaries with the opposite sex. That really allows not only for them to pour back into the marriage itself and to stop any kinds of envy, but to really look at the joys of who their spouse is and to trust God with the needs of other people's spouses, because often twos can feel the needs of those in their community and they're very gentle and loving and nurturing. And so it's important that they understand when you do that to somebody else's spouse or even somebody who's not married, who's outside of your marriage, who could potentially develop an attraction to you or vice versa, that you're really now instead being humble with God to say, you're going to take care of them and I'm going to take care of my marriage. So that's a good tip for twos.
Okay.
All right, type threes. I love when threes can, before we got on, we were talking about sometimes the heart triad people, twos, threes, and fours can struggle with shame. So it's important that threes really learn to address the anxiety around that shame because they move very fast. And when they can address the anxiety underneath, it can help them to receive whether the anxiety is coming from a space of actual just generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder or something to do with thyroid. It could be anything. Or more likely, I really enjoyed speaking with a three on the Fathoms podcast, and he reminded me that it's important that threes also look to see if their anxiety is coming from a lack of healthy self-efficacy or self-esteem.
I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And it's just helpful to have a type 6 wife who's not impressed with my type 3 achievements, who's not wooed by, all that stuff. And she just loves me for who I am and continues to remind me that I'm loved for who I am, not what I do. And so it's really healing to be married to a type 6.
That's beautiful. I love that she has that loyalty to you, not to what you do.
Yes.
That's neat. That's so cool about Lindsay. Another thing for threes to remember is to remember, and you're doing this in your marriage, that although threes can be excellent at executing plans and working on marriage, just being in the marriage long term is a really great and again, very against the vanity, humbling goal of just doing something quietly, off stage, background, just living life, allowing the hum of life to settle in and to just enjoy love for the sake of just being intimate with one another versus achieving or having somebody amazing on your arm. And I think that's a really beautiful step when threes can just say, I may be really good at starting things, but I want to be good at being in this and finishing well versus just starting relationship after relationship. The third tip I have for threes is similar in that it's regular, everyday, being proud of your spouse and their achievements and displaying them. And I think a lot of threes actually do this. Sometimes I think it's a misnomer about threes that they don't do this very well, when I actually think they're some of the most supportive and romantic spouses I've ever seen. But I do want to really let you know that it's important that when and if they forget to do this because they're very busy with their own jobs, that they do come back around and start re-celebrating their spouse. Because when they're not doing it, I think their spouse really feels it. Like, you are such a great encourager and supporter and cheerleader for me. So when you're not doing that for me because you're caught up in your stuff, I miss it. It's a specific gift that you give to me that I may not have. So I just love to see threes cheerleading for their spouse's issues and causes.
All right. You want to keep going?
Sure. So I love for Enneagram 4s to dream together, because a lot of 4s spend time dreaming about the past or fantasies ahead that may not include their spouses. And it may be that it feels safe to do that. But when you include your spouse in your dreaming, it's more holy. And it's healthier and it's more fulfilling, because often there are God-given dreams that you guys can achieve together or just cheerlead for each other. So it's an important thing for a 4 to be able to take life at a very slow pace, and for their spouse to know that, but for them themselves to include their spouse in the dreaming is so important. And then oftentimes they spend time in the depths and in their space of melancholy. But I think the second tip I have for 4s here is to allow their creativity to move them, because it's hard to get a 4 moving, but they do often move through some of their lamenting when they invite in an art form to be a bit of a muse for them and to get it out. And so sometimes that even gets to be shared with the world. I know my daughter bangs on the piano when she's really trying to let it out. And it's wonderful to see, because I know this is a healing space and we're moving through. Or she does dance in her worship dance all the time. And we have that lined up for her 4 or 5 times a week. So 4s really need the doing, but it comes through the art a lot. So just remember that. Whether it's pottery, whatever it is, please make sure that you get that in, and your marriage will get healthier as you begin to get up. And then lastly, I think 4s do really well when they have time for laughter in their marriage and joy. And so a lot of them do, but just as a reminder to you, if you're a 4, to make time for the funny, silly shows. And you can go back. I know 4s love to go back to the past. They can go back, watch old school. I know my daughters, our favorite things are like, for that, are Back to the Future or a funny Seinfeld episode, and whatever cracks you up, whatever memes, spend time in it, because your emotional mirth is so beautiful for others to see. I think 4s carry a joy that is often we just love it. We want more of it. We're mesmerized.
The part about the dreaming really stuck out to me, of they're just daydreamers, the romantics, and to include your spouse in those, not to let that get away from you. That is really helpful.
And not knowing Enneagram for many of those years, but then moving it in was like, this is great. So what's fun about 5s is all their tips sort of roll in together, but they start, I think, with a 5 admitting that they do have emotions, because a lot of the time, even myself included, we just quickly, 5s don't have emotions. They have feelings, they have thoughts rather. And I think that when we're all being the most honest that we can be with 5 life, we know that even male 5s do have emotions, but they're hidden, and males are not socialized for emotion. And so we're doing some work in this area finally. And that's beautiful for 5 males in particular, because they're starting to feel permission to give their thinking, emotional thinking, to have that space. They're also finally allowing in, even if private, and this is my first tip, private time for crying, for releasing the emotions that do come up when you've allowed some thought. Usually because they're in the fear triad along with 6s and 7s, it's things that scare them, things that they're afraid of happening in their relationship, that have hurt them in their relationship, that their spouse has accidentally or intentionally done to hurt them. And instead of just being the stoic survivor, allowing it in, I'm human, it hurts, I'm vulnerable too. And then the next step really goes with that for 5s. And I think that's being brave to rise up in that Holy Spirit power. I think that's not only very attractive to your spouse, but I think that it's important that you rise up to say, there's more to me than you realized. Because yes, I do conserve energy and I conserve emotions, but I can allow the emotions to roll through me and then rise up in my doing space finally, instead of this doing inhibited space. So it's a beautiful thing for 5s to not just be, stop being feelings inhibited, but doing inhibited. Either one can catch them. And now they're really centered and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, I'm doing, I'm feeling. And now I think the third tip comes in is allow your fun prowess toward your spouse to come to life, where you can chase them a bit. And instead of, like I said, always being the one to hold back, you can show them like, I'm showing up in the world. Others are wanting me. I'm not just slumping back and forgetting myself here. I'm truly not just calculating my thoughts, but I'm just living adventurously. And I think when they do this, I've seen this happen time and again with the spouses I work with. The 5 spouses are just like, I'm here. I am like, okay, like, how can I meet you? Because you're stronger and you're in that sort of, I know we talk arrows sometimes, but you're in that 8 power space. And it's just so attractive and beautiful. But it starts with feelings, heads into doing, and then leads to fun.
So well, Pat. All right. Type 6s.
Perfect. Let's talk about 6s. 6s love their comforts. I also like to think of them as grounded comfort type. Sometimes when I'm thinking in my Lord of the Ring worlds, I'm thinking about the hobbits and I'm thinking about how a lot of people don't know that about 6s. They're just like, oh, they're warriors, but they love to be comfortable and grounded. They often don't feel that stability. So they're working for that so hard in their marriage that sometimes they can forget to show appreciation for what already is. So that's my first tip for 6s is, you're doing well on the comfort thing, like as well as we can expect, really. So let's move into appreciation for what is. Next, I want to remind 6s that in addition to comforts, they can do a lot of doom scrolling or negative forecasting. And unfortunately, we know that the self-fulfilling prophecies can come when we invite in, I'm worried you're going to do this. I'm worried this is going to happen. And it can just create such a negative harbor for fears. And instead of rolling through them and moving past them, there can be an endless titration of, we have to process one more thing, one more potential outcome. And so just really releasing that with courage, with trust in God, and leading into my last tip, inviting some fun in can help a 6. And they have that 7 wing to lean into lighter conversations intentionally. They also, a lot of them have a really great experience with their 9 arrow of peace. You explained that with Lindsay earlier. Just going into their spaces of peace and fun can really give them that doing movement of, I'm not just thinking and processing or even feeling these intense feelings, but I'm out there having a good time. And I'm now really ensuring that my marriage will be healthier because I'm not projecting my insecurities. I'm trusting God, which is super attractive, that new confidence. And then I'm also showing that I appreciate my partner, which is absolutely huge too.
I loved all your tips for 6s, and I'll definitely write those down, and I'll share those with Lindsay too. What I've needed to know as a type 3, what I've needed to learn is how to create space for her to express her doubts and concerns without shutting them down and saying, don't worry about that. It's going to be okay. It's a 3. Just have hope. Just have faith, but her side of it then, to meet me in the middle, is to not just come with the doom scrolling of doubts and concerns, but to come with solutions and to come with a cautious optimism. That ministers to me when she can stay cautiously optimistic about life and not just like throw up the red flag and catastrophize that everything's going downhill fast.
Beautiful. And it just blesses the brain work as well, as we are learning more and more about what makes brains work healthily. It's like positivity within reason, of course. And so I'm glad that you guys are taking that and you can bring that to whoever you are out there listening. And yes, I love how you're reminding us also, like, these are the tips for each type. So yes, we want our spouses to meet us there, but these are the ways we can grow. So sevens, I really want sevens to know, and I love that I can hopefully teach some things I've been learning along the way and of course continue to learn. But tell your spouse what you want at the risk of making them unhappy, because something we're always scanning for as sevens in our contingency management, if you will, is everyone in my circle really happy? And we're idealists, so we want them to be perfectly happy, amazingly happy. And often they're just normal. I have some comfort types in my family at 9 who's like, Mom, chill. It's not even 8 a.m. And also I have a 4, as I said, and a 1. And my son can be a little 6-ish, 7-ish. But between the 5 of us, I've really had to learn that it's important that not only do people have a right to all kinds of emotions, but that it's important that I express needs, even if it's going to rock the boat, because then you can go to a really unhealthy, critical space as a 7 when people don't meet the needs. And you can kind of say, why weren't you mind reading that? I would have wanted you to do this. And they're like, you never even told me. And so that kind of is something I think 7s will need ongoing, is you really do truly have a good heart for wanting people to be happy, but people just need to hear from you as to what you need. And that just rubs right up against the depths of 7 saying, nobody is there for me. So it's just this constant, like an inner whisper that the 9 has that says, we'll talk about 9s later, what theirs says, but it's an inner whisper that says nobody will be there for you. So we just have to be like, but they might if I tell them what I need, and they definitely won't if I don't. So that's important for 7s to know. Also, of course, to say, I think you guys are knowing this, so just to reiterate it, take a daily rest of some sort on a day when you're too hyped up, because if your energy isn't balanced, like right now I'm speaking to you guys in a balanced way, but I'll still need to eat a little extra protein because I added in a bigger talk today. And I think that whether you're taking a 10-minute power nap or eating more protein or maybe toning your workout down, you have to realize energy, joules, all of it works together. You have to account for the energy lost. Or my last tip will come out, and that is, don't leave scraps for your mate, because that's often what happens is your mate and your family don't get you in a balanced way or a rested way when the end of the day rolls around. And so whereas the world might say you're so sunshiny, your family will say, where are you? Or, what's going on with you? And sometimes I have that with my clients where they'll say they were out for 5 hours jogging, but, I missed them and we didn't get anything. And then when they came home, they just kind of fell apart. So just make sure you keep an eye on your energy levels, and then saving something for your mate, making sure you're balanced enough to be a good listener to them too. And as I said at the beginning, actually sharing some needs.
That's so good. I love the piece about not leaving leftovers for your partner. That's so good.
I mean, everyone needs each of these gifts. We all need them all. So spread it around, but save the most for your spouse and your family.
Yep. All right. Type 8s.
Yes. So type 8s, I want to let you know that when you get discouraged, it's so easy to say, easy because you don't want to be hurt, I won't go near them anymore. I'm done with them. I'm just realizing and kind of interiorly giving, that's probably not even a word, but we're on the interior. We've got this, that the 8s on the interior are really just feeling that resentment and vindication, want to rise up and say they hurt me and it'll never happen again. But I just want to encourage you, don't give up on the relationship. Just take a short break. Just head into this metaphorical 5 space, and it's probably quite real. Your lair, your cave, wherever you need to go to recover, and then to let your breaths go down to lower than 100 beats a minute, which is what we need to process logically again. And I think that's important for you to just take some time to breathe, to rest, and to understand that your spouse is human and that humans will disappoint, but we still need each other, and you still really will do better in life with healthy connection. And in most cases, your partner just loves you, but also has issues. And we all have issues, which is my second tip for eights, which is reduce your perfection expectations. And I think that really, along with the short break tip, can help you because, again, like I said to ones, and we're heading back into these justice, right and wrong types, ones, eights, and nines, we need to remember that a lot of people don't want to say to an eight, because you do so much for others and you help so well, that you have issues too. And that sometimes you maybe take up more space than they would like or come on more strong. But when you can say that, of course, I want your spouse to be able to tell you so that you can titrate together. But just understand that you make mistakes, or in their eyes, you're less than perfect too. So please try to reduce your perfectionism expectations in that light. And I know you're probably, if you're an eight, you're watching like, no, they need to tell me what's going on. And we believe that too. And we actually, two of our best friends in our family are eights. And so when we have issues, we do tell. But I know that we're all in process. So try to remember, sometimes my spouse doesn't tell me, but I irritate or annoy them. And, sometimes they do tell you, but when they don't, that's grace. And I want you to have grace for your people too, so that you can stay connected and strong together. And just, again, back to that love C.S. Lewis quote, love them because they're yours, not because they're perfect.
I never thought of eights in terms of, having perfect expectations.
Oh, yes, they can.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what does that look like in terms of what does perfectionism look like for an eight?
Well, eights are really good a lot of times at loving and following up with their strength and their intent. And so I think that a lot of the other types, as we've talked about, might be maybe too busy worrying or doing or working. And the eight can get feeling, at least, that they're giving a lot more with very little return. Something they're forgetting within that is that they, as this very strong body type and power type, have maybe more energy to start with. Each human being has different neurobiology. So they're forgetting a lot of the time that I don't come with the same raw materials as my spouse. Therefore, I'm not the omnipotent judge. So relaxing off of that looks like, you know what? I'm not perfect either. And my spouse is going to disappoint me sometimes, but healthy eights know that, and they are doing a beautiful job of pulling back. Sometimes they get cross, but they rest, they recover, and now they come back out to love. But being very sensitive, they are going to need that recovery time.
That makes sense. And it sounds like what you're saying is it looks like eights moving to the unhealthy side of two, because twos can get angry and Hulk out when they're loving and serving and doing all these things, and they're not getting it in return. I always mentioned Bruno Mars song because, I'd catch a grenade for you,
Yep.
I would do all these things for you, but you won't do the same.
And I love how you clarified, because some people wouldn't see the eight in the light of the two if we're not familiar with arrows, or they might not see it if you're not familiar with the 8, 9, and 1 kind of being in that. If you're looking at a mountaintop, they're kind of on the top looking down. We're watching over, we're the best. So it really blesses us all just to hear like, oh man, other people have other gifts. I'm just going to take a rest and come back.
Okay. The nines have been so patient.
Thank you, nines. We love you, and we want you to know that you're allowed to show up for your emotions. I know that it's not always fun or comfortable, going back to another comfort type, but I think that it's a really rewarding experience to remember that you're beloved as well, and to just take a few minutes a day quietly. Usually for nines, they like a quiet time with God. I know my daughter's favorite way to experience God is through just that stillness. And I think that when you can have some of that time and give yourself permission for that, you can start to really open up about what's happening in your life and decide what's worth sharing and rocking a bit of that harmony out there, and what needs to be just let go of, because the inner whisper is not right here. I really am loved, and people aren't forgetting me as much as I think. So there's all kinds of thoughts you can have and experiences when you start to address your emotions in a healthy way, just some quiet time for you and God. So that's my first tip. You're worth that time. A lot of nines need 30 minutes to 2 hours a day just for them. Another tip I have is show up for your spouse's cause and not just your own. I know nines love their right action, but what's really important is that they show up with enough energy to champion for their spouse's cause. And that's just such a beautiful gift, because I do believe nines have a lot of body type power also. And I think they can when they're healthy. I don't think nines lack energy when they're in their healthy space. I think they have a lot of and I'm not a nine, so please know that I'm saying that outside looking in, and you can tell the experience even better if you're a nine listening and watching. But I think that it's a kinetic power. What I've seen in other nines is it's extremely strong, like an oak, comes to life, and that they have a lot to give as a river pouring out everywhere with love. And it's just often that their spouse's issue gets so much love and attention too, when they can really wake up. So that's my last tip for nines, is to remember to integrate your body work in as well, as we talk about, speaking up and, allowing your thoughts and your feelings to come back to you. How can a nine do this, right? Like what's the way to it? And it's usually through allowing some time either with stillness with your body, as I said, or actual activity. Definitely get your sleep. I know nines enjoy their sleep, but definitely also do this fitness or body work each day of like massage or taking care of dietary needs to where it's not carving out all day, but really actively just being in and inhabiting your body with love, so that in addition to merging with everybody else, you are awake and you're alive, and now you can serve the beautiful way we know you do, but you're important too. So those are my tips for nine.
I can't remember where I heard it, but I love the saying, if you can't get along with a nine, it's not their fault, it's your fault. Because nines are so easily likable and peaceable. And I just love the nines in my life too. And I think it might have been Seth Abrams on the Fathoms podcast, who's a nine. I think he said, he was coming to terms with the fact that, the nine's gift of mediating and seeing all sides can, in Strengths Finder term, take you from the balcony to the basement pretty quickly in a relationship. And because when you're always trying to smooth things out, it can actually lead you to not show up for your partner or be an advocate or ally for your partner. So if they're having conflict with somebody at work, or another family member, or maybe your parents, the in-laws, and you're just and you're saying, oh, well, my mom or my dad, or, they just mean this, and this is how they're saying things. And you kind of use your gift to sort of help them see all sides. Then you sort of equalize everything. And if there's an injustice, if the in-laws, like your parents, are treating your spouse poorly, then you need to show up for your spouse and to get a little angry and to enter into conflict if you need to, and sort of show up rather than always just try to smooth things out. Does that make sense?
I love it. I'm over here like, woo, that's awesome. And I think that's a great tip. And I think the nines watching are like, yes, this is a good one for me. It's a good challenge. And probably a lot of you have started to do it. And then I would just add to the fact that since nines can get stubborn and also be at times in that judgmental triad with eights and ones, that they can also learn to titrate for everybody in their family. That yes, we want to encourage our spouses first, as I said, to other spouses of different types, but do come back around to knowing that most people out there are doing the best that they can. So you can still be an advocate for people to be understood, but I would not always start there, like you said, of just keeping the peace. I would really allow for nines to be able to say, to use my gift truly at its best. I'm an advocate for love with everybody, but especially my spouse, because that's my person. So thank you for reminding them to really prioritize their spouse along with themselves.
If you benefited from this episode, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating and write a review so this content will be shared with more Enneagram enthusiasts like yourself. Now, before you go, let me leave you with this. Which of Christa's tips stood out to you the most today? And what's one small step you could take this week to put it into practice in your marriage or one of your closest relationships? The good news is that no one is asking you to be the perfect spouse, but just to stay curious, connected, and willing to grow.